Imagine you're standing here with different clothes to what you're wearing right now, I might add. It's pretty cold. Now, it doesn't matter if you hate mountains or you'd get tired even by the thought of walking up a hill. Just imagine you love mountains for the moment. You're at 8,800 meters from sea level, 50 meters away from top of the world, summit of Mount Everest. You can almost touch it. You have spent $50,000 on this expedition with 2.5 months of effort on the mountain, with many years of training and dreaming about reaching this glory. Climbing Everest has become part of your identity, and you think amongst your society, people know you by that. However, a storm is fast approaching. It's too late in the day, and you think to yourself that whilst you can probably reach the top all right, you will get caught in a storm in the dark and will probably die. What would you do? This month marks the 70th anniversary of one of the greatest achievements in human history, the first official successful climb of Mount Everest by Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay. But this video is not about mountain climbing only. It's about goal setting, leadership, and team learning. And whilst there are so many differences in environments on a mountain climb and in business environments, experience has shown that humans tend to behave in similar fashion, whether at plus 25 degrees Celsius or at minus 40 on an 8,000er. To put it in some numbers, the 1953 British expedition on Everest involved some 400 men carrying more than 4.5 tons of food and supplies up various camps on the mountain. So mountain climbing on these expeditions are huge projects that need to be managed. But experiences on Everest have not always been victorious. In fact, more than 300 people have died so far trying to reach the summit of Everest. One of the most famous tragedies relates to 1996, when 8 climbers died in one day when they got caught in a storm near the summit of Everest. 2 teams were making the final push towards the summit when they ignored warnings about an impending storm. They ignored the 2 p.m. turnaround time that they should have turned back and come back down because they wanted to reach the summit at any cost. If you are interested to know the details of what happened on that day, I recommend you read the book Into Thin Air by John Krakauer, who was actually on that expedition. But in this video, I want to talk about the behaviors that led to those decisions and the disaster. I will be referring to the points from the great book called Destructive Goal Pursuit. The author is actually not a mountain climber. He's a professor of management at George Washington University. And it's a great book that I highly recommend that you read it in full. I will only touch on very few points that I found most interesting. In the book, the author refers to the concept of goalodicy, the obsessive pursuit of goals, even at the cost of self-destruction, without any regard to the changing circumstances in the environment. On Everest, this would be continuing to push for the summit despite warnings of an impending storm. In business world, this might be about continuing to invest in a project which no longer fits the purpose of the company. Maybe because people say, oh, we have spent so much time and energy and money on it already, the so-called sunk cost fallacy. Sometimes they refer to this behavior as throwing good money after bad money. Then the book also talks about the issue of identity. Let me ask you, who are you? What are you known for? Is there something in your life that without it, you fear you will have no place in the society? On Everest, this meant that for many climbers, they felt Without reaching the top, they will have no self-worth. That was part of their identity. They felt defeated without reaching the top. The mental stakes of reaching the summit of Everest were so high that they were willing to risk everything for that, even their lives. In business world, for individuals, it might be a job, a project, or a company, and in the context of companies, a strategy or a brand that can be their identity. That even when that identity no longer serves the purpose, those individuals or companies refuse to let go of that faulty identity. Now, of course, letting go of an identity is easier said than done, quite simply because we spend so much effort and time in building our identities. In another great book called Rebound, which I read last year when I was suffering from a sports-related injury, the author talks about world-class athletes who had to redefine their purpose in life when they suffered from a catastrophic sport-related injury. Classic example is Kevin Ogar, who got paralyzed during a weightlifting competition and now operates fitness programs for veterans and started a non-for-profit organization. And in the context of teamwork and leadership, the author refers to the point of leadership dependency and lack of autonomy, how becoming over-dependent on the leader can lead to poor decision-making for teams. Now, some leaders may actually cherish that because it validates them. They want all team members to be totally dependent on them. But as the author talks about it, in complex environments, when the situations are constantly changing, one person, be it the leader, cannot be the only decision maker and with the other team members ignoring the situation. Moving on to how goal setting and teamwork can improve in challenging environments, the book talks about having multiple goals as opposed to having one single goal. Having different goals, the flexibility and having this adaptability in teams enables the team to achieve something when the primary goal is no longer in the team's best interest. Another point that the book refers to is about having understanding and trust amongst team members and having open communications between team members. On Everest in 1996, teams started to break apart with individuals or groups of individuals going about pursuing their own individual objectives without much regard to the rest of the team. And finally, the book also refers to the point of proximal team learning, which is quite important. This is where teams continue to acquire new knowledge and information at the same time as they are pursuing a goal and engaging in an activity. That in complex environments, as circumstances change, teams incorporate those new information and adjust actions accordingly. These concepts are as much relevant to business environment as they are on an 8,000 meter peak. Now, if you are more interested in the topic and are passionate about mountains like I am, I highly recommend that you watch the 2015 movie called Everest and the PBS documentary called Storm Over Everest, which talks about the 1996 disaster. And for other exciting reality TV series about climbing Everest from various routes, actually, I recommend you watch the 3 seasons of Everest Beyond the Limit on Discovery Channel. Fortunately, with advancement of technology and also the lessons learned from past experiences, death tolls are much lower on 8,000 meter peaks, including Everest now. However, risks will always be there, which is part of the excitement of engaging in those activities. And for those who might wonder why do individuals engage in such risky behaviors, legendary British climber George Mallory gave the reply to why climb Everest, and he said, because it's there.